Hi.
Hey,
Shelly. My name is Shelly. I've been sober for about 15 minutes. So look, CES was really, my CES wrap-up is that CES is still a show about organizations that like to lie to themselves and pretend everything's okay. The big manufacturers put on the exact show I expected them to put on. If you guys need an iPhone case, you know where to go. If you need a case for your iPad, you know where to go. You know what used to be in that hall? You remember?
Video.
Cars. Cars filled with extraordinary third-party speakers. And the most insane installs, and nitrous oxide afterburner thingers for the car, and anything you get third-party OEM into the car used to fill that hall. And now, sadly, it's iPhone cases. So let's just think about what's the state of the industry and what really are we learning from CES this year. More than any other year we've ever seen CES, there are some key takeaways we probably have to, we really have to pay attention to. First of all, CES can't stay the way it is. It's very imbalanced and it makes no sense whatsoever. You got a bunch of manufacturers making screens that are rectangular with metal bezels on them that all look exactly the same. And it's an Ultra HD picture is an Ultra HD picture. There's no feature set you're going to add to it. Either it's got 4,000 pixels or it doesn't. Either it's an 8.3 megapixel picture or it isn't. If it isn't, it's not an Ultra HD set, and if it is, it is. And so at the end of the day, that's not going to last. There's just too many things going on that are exactly the same. These guys are going to have to race to the bottom in price, and when you're in a race to the bottom in price, only bad things happen. Nobody can stand for price anywhere. These guys all have to. It's a big issue, and I think it's an industry in serious transition. There are 3 governments represented on the floor: South Korea, China, and Japan. The Koreans have won this round in a serious way. Samsung, as I said last night, and I think some of you were here the night before, 26% of the flat screen business worldwide. The only company of the top 5 manufacturers that's up year over year. Everybody else is losing billions with a B. So it's not business as usual. There are a couple things on the floor you should look at, and what's not here is more interesting than what is here. In the South Hall, MakerBot had their $2,100 3D printer. Anybody who's aware of the maker movement knows that a lot of DIY people like to make things. You print like little heads, so Yoda heads, and little gears, and all this tchotchkes and stuff that you print with a 3D printer in plastic. Problem is, it's not going to stay that way. We talked about the 3 things that matter here the most, which are the law of accelerating returns, saying that the rate of change of technology is exponential, a very logarithmic curve, and Metcalfe's law that the power of the network increases proportional to the square of the number of users, meaning that the more people on a network, the more valuable it is. And the current iteration of Moore's law, which is that the density of transistors on silicon is going to double every X months. It used to be 18 months in 1965 when Gordon Moore laid it out. It's about 8 months now. Put those 3 laws together and you start to see that it very, 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 very quickly this is going to have to transition. Cannot stay the way it is. What are the things we understand? That MakerBot $2,100 3D printer that only prints in plastic in a very short period of time. I remember Bree when he came on my television show a year and a half ago, and he had the MakerBot kit, and the kit was $9.95, and you bought it and you had to put it together yourself. And it reminded me a lot, to be honest, of my first Heathkit Altair computer back in the 70s, and it reminded me a lot of my Radio Shack TRS-80 computer that I put together from parts, and it reminded me a lot about a lot of things I used to do when you invented the future yourself, when you got to discover stuff and you got to make stuff. All of a sudden, Bree got enough traction, enough people were interested in 3-dimensional printing, he's got a unit you can buy for $2,100. If you remember the first laser printers, they were tens of thousands of dollars. This is the first 3D printer, it's $2,100. The world's changed. That printer is going to be selling for $2.99, $3.99 in Walmart and Kmart and Costco pretty soon. And you're able to print things like loose leaf binders and cups and silverware and craziness like that. And that's going to happen in this exponential, insane curve. So that's at the show. It's not very well represented. There are 2 or 3 3D printer guys that make 3D printers in the South Hall. But it's the beginning of what I know to be an incredible economic driver and a change in our economy, and that every company that I took around the show has a supply side and manufacturing that will be impacted by home printing, from package design, package consumption, you name it, it'll be impacted by functional 3D printing. And remember, the equivalent of a Kinko's is a company called Shapeways. They'll print in wood, they'll print in carbon fiber, and they'll print in stainless steel for you right now. So what does it mean to own something in the 21st century if I can get a CAD/CAM file and I can make it a physical object? On the same subject, we saw self-driving cars announced. A year ago in 2 nights, Alan Mulally took me to dinner with 6, 7 other people, and he was asked, when will we have self-driving cars? And the answer was, not in his lifetime. 4 months later, Google got approval to test their self-driving car in California. And at the show here, both Lexus/Toyota and Audi have self-driving cars on display. That, as we talked about yesterday, is not the part that's interesting to me. I've got a bunch of brands I took around this show, and what happened to the brands? The brands deliver stuff on the interstate highway system. What are they delivered in? Trucks. What trucks do? Trucks drive all the time, as much as they can. Ask any truck driver who makes a living. Stays on the road as much as humanly possible. A self-driving truck never goes off the road except to refuel. Self-driving truck doesn't have to be built by Peterbilt. A self-driving truck can be built aerodynamically and more fuel efficient, about 40% more fuel efficient. When I told people from very, very large FMCG firms today and large beverage companies today about a 40% fuel savings and no liability for drivers and no backtalk and self-fueling vehicles, and change the whole supply side, delivery side, these guys just lit up, and they said, well, it's never going to happen. I said, really? Because Alan Mulally told me a year ago it was never going to happen. I got 3 cars on the road right now that are under NTSB regulatory saying, yeah, let's go. That's here at CES. It's not on the floor in a big way, but it's on the floor. And CES isn't about 9 months from now. CES is about 12 months from now, 15 months from now. What do we see today that was huge? Snapdragon has been the processor of choice. Everybody loves the Qualcomm Snapdragon. Intel says, I'm not going to lay down and take it. Medfield shows up and Redridge shows up. What does that chip technology mean? Well, this year, 2013, 5 billion chips mobile chips are going to be shipped. 5 billion. And that's pretty much online with what we expect 2015 to look like, where we'll have something around 3 billion people connected to the internet and around 15 billion connected devices. At that time, we are going to have a different world because of Metcalfe's law, but at the present, what we have is to think about as advertisers is how is the world going to change when I put a desktop computer in everybody's hand the size of an iPad mini. Low power consumption, full quad-core processor, all singing, all dancing, blow your mind. I've got a 4G network, LTE network from Verizon that's going to be nationwide by 2015. There'll be no nook or cranny where you can't get the bandwidth you need to use this material, these machines, and these machines are going to be all singing, all dancing, all powerful. And that's just 2015. That doesn't even start to talk about what's going to happen past that point. Go a little further, we talked about screen sizes. At the show, you'll see screens from 2¼ inches to 156 inches. That's 13 feet diagonal, in case you're wondering. And no, it doesn't fit in my apartment because I can't get in the elevator. But I'll tell you what's important. What's important is that there were 2 technologies at the show here that are so remarkably important to the advertising business that they just stop your heart. The first one's a parlor trick, but it makes you think what's possible. The parlor trick is a all-share technology, or that's happening at Samsung, where you can take your Samsung Galaxy device, whatever that is, and move the content to your tablet and your handheld, move it to your television set, all seamlessly. Go figure out exactly how you're going to measure that when you run an ad on that. Go figure out how you're going to talk about consumption, how you're going to talk about consumer behavior when registered device is internal to someone's network at home. Change their behavior so dramatically that it impacts the way they do life, and yet you as an advertiser can't actually measure it or understand it without going back 50 years in statistical analysis. We're going back to diaries? I don't know, but that data doesn't exist. It's petabytes of data, and there's no way to collect it. If you could collect it, you'd have to have a backhaul that would be ridiculous. Then you have to clean that data, because that data, you'd only be interested in the deltas. You'd only be interested in the changes. So you'd be generating petabytes of data every day, and you'd have to get that down to terabytes, and ultimately you'd have to put it back into petabytes and exabytes and then try to crunch those numbers. It's an explosive math problem. The tools to do it just don't exist. And the need to do it does exist. So we're in a situation now as advertisers where you go, oh man, we're screwed, except, oh wait, it's a parlor trick, because the Samsung stuff only works with Samsung, and the Sony stuff only works with Samsung, and the LG stuff only works with LG. They're all siloed. They're never going to talk to each other. Dodge that bullet. Hope you walked around to the corner of the Intel booth where the XG5 gateway was there. Does anybody see that box? Anybody know what an XG5 gateway is? I'll tell you what the XG5 gateway is. A bunch of DOCSIS modems and a bunch of QAMs the QoS system. And if that's all techie talk to you, it sounds like this. Video, voice, and data. You guys are familiar with the triple play? There's a fourth channel in that box that's just a direct internet connection, or what's known as IP provisioned from Comcast through this box, which is made with Intel chips. And here's how it goes. They run Xfinity, their app, which gets you all 300 channels of Comcast on any device, anywhere in your house, anytime, at full HD quality or Ultra HD quality. And by the way, you have no idea how it's being used or how it's being consumed. The idea of a 30-second spot ends the day that gets deployed. Oh, it will never get deployed. Really? Comcast has the XG1 in 50,000 homes in Boston. That's why they decided to manufacture the XG5. Although there are only 300 XG5s, it goes in the closet. The box itself goes in the closet where all good gateways go and all the set-top boxes across all of Comcast's 23 million video subscribers and 44 million households go away. No more set-top boxes. Any device, anywhere in your house, all under Title VI existing fair use cable contract laws. All the existing carrier agreements fully respected. That is so different than Samsung trying to punk me with, look when you can move the content around. Yeah, when are you going to get the content? This content is real. It's under fair use, and Comcast has the license to it. And when they give it to you on any device, anywhere in your house, you have 12 devices in your house, you got 3 kids with iPads, and they've got computers, and they've got big TVs and little TV. It don't make a difference where they are. How will you know if they're watching on their handheld, a smartphone, on their tablet, on their television, or on their computer? You will not know. You will not know. There is just no way to get that measurement done. So we're going to have to take things on faith. Will we still sell spots? Yeah. What else will we sell? Well, you have to think about the recorded music industry if you look at CES this year, and you have to think about it in a unique way. The recorded music industry started selling albums a long time ago. It was the smallest unit they like to sell, right? Got your 10, 12 songs, one you liked, the rest you hated, but you bought them anyway, because that's how they packaged it. It was a grudge buy, to be sure. Very highly motivated to get that out the door, because they don't have to worry about the 900 different middlewares across their 23 million video households as soon as they put that gateway in. Changes their whole world, allows them to charge all kinds of money for all kinds of things, including hooking grandma up to the trans-telephonic Wi-Fi monitor. I can monitor grandma's blood pressure. I can monitor her diabetes. I can monitor if she moved. Hey, grandma hasn't moved in 3 hours. Is she still alive? Someone, maybe there's an app for that. My iPhone will go off and I'll find out if grandma's still alive. It's not that funny. The only thing that was funny in the entire place was the happy fork. That actually made me laugh. Now, as you can tell from my boyish figure, I eat a lot. And according to this medical study, if you eat really fast, then you gain weight. If you eat really slow, then you lose weight. So apparently this fork, and I actually picked it up, and it's pretty funny. When you eat at a certain rate, if you go too fast, it starts to vibrate. It's like, I think it should talk to you and say, stop that bitch, but it doesn't. You just, it just starts to vibrate. But then it tattles on you. It tells your iPhone. And then your iPhone like gangs up on you. You turn your iPhone, it's like, hey, you're eating too fast. So that's the ridiculous side of CES, the side that's a parlor trick. But even that parlor trick has to make you think. There are sensors. Of the 5 billion mobile chips that are going to be shipped this year, for every mobile chip there's going to be 10 sensors that are sold. And sensor technology is as usable in our world as anything else. Sensors are used to determine when we're moving, to determine whether doors are open, windows are open, are we in motion, not in motion, and all of that is wirelessly enabled. Whether it works on an LTE cloud or a Wi-Fi cloud doesn't matter to it, it doesn't matter to you. The last and only key takeaway, if you took nothing else out of the show, if absolutely nothing else made any sense to you whatsoever, one thing you have to take out of the show is that TV used to be done by TV people, mobile used to be done by the mobile guy, and digital networks for computers used to be done by the computer person. And those contents were siloed by us in our industry. That is over. It's unbelievably over. We can have a mobile guy, and we can have a digital guy, and we can have a TV guy, but unless we figure out as an industry how we're going to take the fact that consumers have zero respect for our distribution channels and their consumption patterns, unless we figure out how to deal with that, we will ignore that at our own peril. And that's the story coming off the floor there. We don't care about the fact that half of those 110-inch Ultra HD set manufacturers are going to either go belly up or roll up or consolidate. All we know is that consumers are going to be buying commoditized screens in volume all day long, because that's what they're telling us. They're going to ship as many things out the door as they can. It'll become super low price for consumers. And remember the 3 laws: Moore's Law, the Law of Accelerated Returns, and Metcalfe's Law. We know this stuff is going to get cheap and it's going to get fast. We know for a fact that the rate of this change is going to be crazy, and we also know that there is an unknown coming that no one in the world is smart enough to understand, which is that there's 2 billion people connected today when there are 3 billion people connected. I just don't know what the power of those consumers are going to be over us. We know that you can use Twitter to overthrow a government. It's been well demonstrated the last couple of years. I don't know if you can use it to sell toothpaste, and the answer does not lie here. Have a great rest of the week.